Today, the New Democrat Coalition is the Can-Do Caucus. We are the true policy entrepreneurs in Congress. New Dems know that a closely divided House provides an opportunity to work with reasonable Republicans to deliver bipartisan solutions to our nation's most pressing challenges. With nearly 100 members, no piece of legislation will reach the president's desk this cycle without New Dems at the table. And as you'll hear today from my colleagues, these policy task forces reflect our members' top priorities, and they represent areas where our members believe we can find bipartisan agreement. In addition, these task forces will assemble a governing agenda that we will pursue on day one when we are back in the majority in 2024. In 2022, New Dems held off the much heralded red wave because we ran on finding common sense solutions to kitchen table issues. Voters rejected extremism and embraced mainstream members who will work with anyone to get results. Now, ahead of 2024, Americans want to see us deliver on that promise to work across the aisle and to make progress on tough issues, from tackling the climate crisis to passing comprehensive immigration reform and addressing the mental health and substance use disorder crisis. As New Dems, our top priority has always been breaking through the gridlock to deliver real solutions. So now I'd like to introduce Derek Kilmer from Washington State, our Vice Chair for Policy, to talk more about our vision for these task forces.
All right, thanks, Annie, and thanks everybody for being with us. So let me talk about what these task forces are really about. On one hand, they're about helping our members get pucks into the net. This is, as Annie mentioned, a coalition that stands ready to work with folks on both sides of the aisle in hopes of getting stuff done for our constituents. But second, these task forces are an opportunity for us to lay the foundation, lay the groundwork for progress when we're back in the majority in the next Congress. The 9 task forces that we're rolling out today are really centered around the issues that the American people care about, areas where we think we can find some bipartisanship and make some progress, and areas that we are hearing about with our constituents back home. There's no exciting way to just read 9 task forces to you. I thought about trying to turn it into a limerick. Instead, I'm doing this as free verse. So we've got climate change and clean energy, workforce development, affordable housing, immigration and border security, healthcare, substance use and mental health, economic growth and fiscal responsibility. We have a task force focused on the Farm Bill, one focused on trade, and one focused on national security. If you think about that, a few of those are on areas where we know there's going to be moving vehicles. We know the NDAA passes, and having a national security task force to hitch some of our members' train cars to that moving vehicle is an opportunity. Same thing with the Farm Bill. We have a lot of hope that we will see a bipartisan Farm Bill move. There are others where there's a lot of excitement by our members because there are priorities that we're hearing about back home. Things like combating the climate crisis, and our chair of that, Scott Peters, is not able to be here right now, but we really see the existential threat of the climate crisis. We see it as an opportunity to grow jobs, to create economic opportunity, and with the passage of the Inflation Reduction Act, we also know that we're going to have to lean in on permitting reform if we're going to see some of these investments actually happen, and so that task force is going to be focused there. Our members are hearing a lot about housing affordability, so the Housing Task Force is going to be focused on building more housing and trying to make sure that rents and homes are more affordable for the American people. Third, we know we can support workers and get more folks into the labor force if we support policies like increasing access to child care and paid leave and job training and education and even mental health care as means of supporting American workers. And finally, and you'll hear from Greg Stanton next, who's leading the charge on immigration policy, we think there's an opportunity to reach a compromise in immigration reform that strengthens border security, that provides protections for our dreamers, and that grows our economy. Listen, we're going to look for bipartisan agreement where we can, but these task forces will also focus on working with the administration where we can't find a legislative pathway, working with an administration that shares our values. We're not going to let being in the minority slow us down, and we're a coalition that's about getting stuff done, and that's exactly what we plan to do as a coalition. So with that, let me kick it over to our chair of our Immigration and Border Security Task Force, Greg Stanton.
Good morning. And I want to thank my colleagues, Chairwoman Custer and Congressman Kilmer, and I look forward to working closely with you and the rest of the New Democrat Coalition as the chair of the Immigration Task Force. I love being a member of New Dems. The sole focus is to make government work, and that leadership in this Congress is needed now more than ever. The New Dems work to get to yes on issues that matter most, and they do that by reaching out to members across the ideological spectrum. With a split Congress and razor-thin majorities in both chambers, building bipartisan coalitions around key legislation is essential. And this may come as a surprise to some, but I have always viewed immigration as a policy area where we can find common ground. We can start with protecting our dreamers. These young people have never known another home. They are woven into the social and economic fabric of our country, and we have to make sure that they can contribute and participate economically without fear. We need to pass the Farm Workforce Modernization Act so farmers and ranchers can meet their labor needs and keep our food supply chain strong. And high-skilled immigration reform so we can continue to bring the best and brightest from around the world to work for American companies. Now, our colleagues across the aisle say our first priority should be securing our southern border. The situation is dire. There is no getting around it, and Congress and the administration must do more. But investing in border security and reforming our immigration system are not incompatible goals. Any serious proposal will have to do both. We have our work cut out for us, but the New Dems are ready to come to the table in good faith and finally get something done. Thank you.
That's okay. I'll introduce myself. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Greg. That's all right. Hi, everyone. My name is Marilyn Strickland, and I represent the 10th Congressional District of Washington State. Thank you, Representative Stanton, and thank you to my New Dem colleagues who are committed to a few things: delivering for the American people and governing in the 118th Congress. Our country and its allies are safest when Congress effectively exercises its authority to guide national security policy, and that's why I'm so proud to be chair of the National Security Task Force for the New Democrats. As New Dems, we are committed to delivering a comprehensive national security strategy that will keep Americans safe. We want to ensure that the United States retains its role as a global leader in the 21st century. And we want to maintain congressional support for Ukraine in their fight against Russian aggression. Now, you heard earlier about the different task forces that we are going to chair up. And one thing is very important: these dots are all connected. Housing affordability is related to national security. Climate change is related to national security. Immigration is related to national security. So as we New Dems look at policy and working across the aisle and developing solutions, understand that these things are absolutely linked to each other. Our task force will work to advance our members' national security priorities and deliver meaningful policy reforms in the NDAA that will invest in the people, the tools, the technology, and partnerships that are critical to strengthening U.S. national security. We are focused on delivering for our service members and their families and Americans who are depending on us, on the New Dems, to roll up the sleeves, to be serious about governing, and to do the work. We want to make sure that we are defending freedom here at home and abroad. Next, I'd like to introduce Lizzie Fletcher. And she will speak about the committee that she's chairing. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Marilyn. And good morning. I'm glad to be with all of you here today. I'm glad to be standing here with my New Dem colleagues, and I'm so glad to see all of you here to hear from us about the important initiatives that we're launching, the work that we're doing. I'm so thrilled to work with this incredible group of leaders, including our chair, Annie Custer, and to highlight the work of the New Dems Trade Task Force. I'm glad to chair the task force this Congress after serving as the co-chair in the last two Congresses. Congresses, and we're going to build on the work that we did both in those two Congresses, including building a broad coalition of support for the USMCA and for really advocating for tariff relief during the pandemic and tariff elimination with the UK and the EU, and of course the work we have done over the years. The New Dems have long been at the center of driving pro-growth, pro-innovation policy that recognizes the importance of trade in our economy and the opportunities that it presents. And it's actually a really good segue, although not the original plan segue, from national security as well. And thinking about all of these things together, thinking about our relationships with our allies and partners around the world, trade is an absolutely essential part of what we do when we engage with others around the world. Trade is essential in our global economy. It is at the heart of many of the challenges that we face in this moment. It is also at the heart of many of the opportunities in front of us as well. And certainly representing the energy capital of the world, I see great opportunities to work in partnership as well with the Climate and Clean Energy Task Force, and many others. So all these task forces will work together very collaboratively to talk about policy solutions. One of the things I've learned since I've been in Congress that I love to say is I associate myself with the comments of all of my colleagues here who talked about the things that the New Dems do. And at the end of the day, we're about getting things done. We're about smart policy, and these task forces are ready to get to work to deliver solutions for the American people. So with that, I am glad to turn it back to our chair, Annie Custer. Thank you so much, Annie, for your leadership, and to all my colleagues here.
Great, and I think we have two more members joining us. So Kathy Manning, Workforce Development Task Force Chair, and Norma Torres, who is our, not on the list. Affordable housing, pardon me. Great, great. Come on up, Kathy.
Okay.
Norma, I'm sorry. Come on up.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Congresswoman Kathy Manning. I am proud to chair the Workforce Development Task Force and to serve on the Education and Workforce Committee. As you've heard from my colleagues, the new Democratic Coalition is home to members who want to find common sense policy solutions to the issues that are impacting our districts. The task forces are a place where we can convene stakeholders, engage with the Biden administration, and put forth policy ideas to solve the challenges before us. I'm excited to work with Vice Chairs Representatives Hillary Skolton and Gabe Vasquez to lift up the workforce development challenges and wins that our districts have experienced, and to use those experiences to create policies that work for hardworking Americans. I'm proud to represent North Carolina's 6th district. My district is home to 11 colleges and universities, including several community colleges and the largest HBCU in the country. We are known as leaders in the aerospace industry. The economy in my district is booming, but like many of my colleagues standing here today, we have workforce challenges I hear about every time I'm in the district that must be addressed. Historically, my district was home to textile and furniture manufacturing, and following NAFTA, many of those businesses moved overseas or went out of businesses. We lost hundreds of thousands of jobs, and our community has had to rethink how we are going to grow in the future. But I'm proud to say that we've emerged as a place where students come to receive a world-class education, and companies are locating to innovate in the aviation industry and other manufacturing areas. I'm proud to say that Toyota will be opening an electric battery manufacturing plant in the years to come, which requires lots of new educated workers. We've successfully attracted new business to our region, and now we have to make sure our workforce is prepared to fill those jobs. As chair of the task force, I'm focused on expanding workforce training programs that can train the next generation of workers while retaining workers who are switching jobs mid-career. I'm excited to work with industry leaders, educators, unions, and workers to increase support for communities that are working to attract workers to fill open jobs, and for companies that are at the forefront of innovative workforce training. I look forward to working with my vice chairs, our stakeholders, and the Biden administration to advance solutions to expand workforce training, attract talented workers to available jobs, and fill open positions that I hear about every time I'm in my district. Together, we can create bipartisan solutions that move our workforce forward. Thank you.
Great. Now we'll hear from Norma Torres on the Housing Task Force.
Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here with the New Dems to talk about a very important issue that affects every single American across our country. Affordable housing is truly the top issue for the constituents that I serve. In last Congress, I worked with my colleagues to address America's housing crisis and rising housing costs for our families as a member of the House Appropriations THAD subcommittee. New Democrats also put forth a comprehensive plan to lower the cost of housing and increase affordable housing development. We did all of that with the goal to ensuring our constituents had access to affordable, secure, and most importantly, quality housing. Because every American deserves the safety and security of a place to call home. That has been our priority. Now we continue to work hand in hand with the Biden administration to seek out bipartisan opportunities so that all Americans can enjoy the benefits of stable and affordable housing. We are focused on getting things done, and we will work with all partners to advance policies to end the homelessness issues and tackle the affordability crisis and address rapidly rising rents. We're focused on bolstering the low-income housing tax credit, addressing material and labor shortages, and making sure the investments that we have already made benefit projects that boost access to affordable housing and allow us to overcome this homeless crisis. As Housing Task Force Chair, I look forward to building on this work in the 118th Congress, delivering results for the Inland Empire, the 35th Congressional District in California that I represent, and generally for all Americans. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with all of you today.
Great. Thank you so much, Norma. Now we'll hear from our Vice Chair of Communications, Brad Schneider from Illinois.
Thanks, Annie, and good morning. It's good to be with you. You've heard from 8 of our 9 task forces today. I think that gives you a sense of what we're trying to do and the approach that the New Dems take. I'm Brad Schneider, Vice Chair of Communications for New Dems, and I'm working to ensure that our coalition's priorities are clearly heard and understood across the country, not just here in Washington. New Dems as a whole represent America as a whole, from rural and suburban communities to our cities, our coasts, and everything in between. Our members understand the unique challenges our nation faces, as well as the economic opportunities we have established and lay ahead of us. And we know that in every community, Americans want to have the freedoms to make their own decisions and the ability to earn a good life for themselves, their children, and their future. And they want to feel safe where they live. These principles were reflected in all of the legislation that Democrats passed in the last Congress. And they're reflected in the task forces the New Dems are standing up today. Last November, we had an incredibly successful midterm election because of the work Democrats are doing across our country, and in particular, the New Democrats. And we need to communicate to Americans that even though in this Congress we're in the minority, we are still fighting for them each and every day. And when we win back the majority next year, we will already have a proactive agenda ready to go. Americans want to feel heard and represented, and it's on us, the New Dems, to show them that we are working in Congress to make a difference for their lives. And we have proved time and again that it is the New Dems who are committed to doing things and getting things done for the American people. So it's now my pleasure to turn it back to our Chair, Annie Kuster.
Thank you, Brad. And we would be happy to take questions. Yeah. Just if you could say your outlet. And yeah.
Jamie Bittner with Great Television.
Great.
I assume some of this 9-point agenda would include, some government spending, which Republicans are trying to curb right now. How could these discussions with the 2024 budget budget impact your agenda for 2024?
I think we're very focused on the implementation of the legislation that we passed in the last session and what these task forces are about. Some may involve new spending, some may involve implementation of the spending that's already been appropriated, and some may involve just straight up policy that isn't related to spending. So we have identified our members. Derek did a survey of all of our members. We've identified these issues as being a combination of some that we know are going to move. You know, I don't think they're going to eliminate the Farm Bill. There's a lot of spending in that, and we'll be working with them on how that happens. Same for the NDAA. Do you want to add anything on that about? Yeah.
I'll add
Go ahead.
if I can.
Yeah.
First of all, I applaud the administration for releasing their budget, and we look forward to working together to advance the priorities of the country. The president talked about many new investments into our country, making sure we implement what we passed, the historic legislation passed in the last Congress, whether it was the infrastructure bill, the CHIPS Act, or the Inflation Reduction Act, but also looking forward. But what this budget also shows is that it's time to start looking at how we bring down our debt. And this budget from the president is reducing the deficit and is a step forward. So I think as New Dems committed to fiscal responsibility, but also investing in our future and giving our kids the best chance they have, we're excited to work with the administration.
Yeah. And we look forward to seeing the Republican budget, and then we can talk about if there are differences where they might be. Yes.
I have Max with Punchbowl News. I have a bit of an immigration question. So
Sure. Come on up.
We saw some consternation this week over the report that the administration was looking to bring back migrant family detention. Can you speak on what do you think is the best way forward after Title 42 expires? Do you favor that policy or something else to stem the flow? What's the expected report?
Okay, thank you for the question. First, I just want to quickly address the previous question, which is we have pro-growth policies in the New Dems, and there is no more pro-economic growth, pro-budget positive policy than passing immigration reform. That would be a real shot in the arm for the American economy and therefore raise revenue for our budget. I don't want to comment specifically on that because that's not, the administration has not pushed that forward. There have been a lot of media reports about that, but we haven't actually seen that from the administration. As it relates to Title 42, look, we know we're going to need to do more to support the increasing resources at the border, both for increasing the number of boots on the ground, if you will, for Border Patrol, increasing the amount of technology at the border, and supporting the nonprofits to support the families that are going to come across. That's going to happen regardless. As it relates to the specifics of the detention policy, until we actually see that as a proposal, I hate to comment on a hypothetical.
I would say, Max, it's an example of how New Dems is engaged in policy, talking to the White House, making sure that we understand what the theory of the case is. And our members, over the past several years, have been to the border. We have a number of members that live at the border or very close. And so I think you'll find New Dems involved in this type of policy going forward. Yes. Can you tell us your...
Kelly with Fox.
Got it.
About the debt limit and the spending cuts conversation that seems to be coming to a head now.
The good news is the $3 trillion in savings that we've got coming out of the new budget. So that,
budget,
yeah.
as you mentioned, was released yesterday. The House Freedom Caucus just held a presser introducing their own proposal for how to cut spending in exchange for their votes to raise the debt limit. So my question for you is, the Freedom Caucus believes that McCarthy will not cut a deal with Democrats to get Democratic votes to raise or to pass a budget, pass spending for next year. They believe that this is going to be a Republican-only effort. Is that how you see the debt limit being raised and spending packages for next year passing the House as well, or do you think this will be a bipartisan effort?
I mean, we have close to 100 members, and we're all prepared to raise the debt ceiling, a clean debt ceiling. We're putting out a letter this week on a clean debt ceiling, and we don't think that we should negotiate over the health and well-being of American families and the security of our entire economy. We had an economist into our lunch yesterday. All the economists that we're discussing this with have been very, very clear that this would cause a complete and total meltdown of the economy. We don't even think they should be talking about negotiating over the debt ceiling. The debt ceiling is about debt that's already been incurred. It needs to be raised. It was raised 3 times during the Trump administration. And what we are willing to have a conversation, and it's around the budget. Let's see their budget. Let's look at the cuts that the Freedom Caucus and others want to make. But my own personal view is that the path forward is working together. If you look at a vote like the NDAA that happened last time, it's right in the middle, almost the exact equal number of R's and D's coming together in a reasonable and responsible way to keep our economy and our country moving forward.
I'll just say one other thing as an appropriator. Does anyone in this room think that there's 218 votes for a Freedom Caucus spending bill? I mean, in the world in which we avoid a government shutdown and actually fund the government, you have to get 218 votes in the House and 60 votes in the Senate. I'm not sure the Freedom Caucus has that solution, and I think the New Dems stand at the ready to actually try to forge a compromise that funds the government in a responsible way and paves the way for economic growth over the long haul.
But you're not willing to negotiate on the budget with the debt limit at all at this point?
I think New Dems and the Democratic Caucus believes that we should pay the minimum balance on our credit card, which is really what this debt limit discussion is about. Every American family understands this. You can choose not to pay the minimum balance on your credit card. It will really screw up your finances. This is about whether we're going to make payments on expenses that the United States has already accrued. Again, you can choose not to make your car payment. You can choose to do that. They're going to come and take the car. And so at the end of the day, I think the New Dems are eager to see Congress be responsible and to step up to our obligations. We are also happy to have a conversation about our long-term fiscal challenges. In fact, one of our task forces is going to focus on that. So.
Anyone else? Great. Well, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it. We're available. Just reach out to Emma Weir if you have questions and following up. And thanks for being with us.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much.